talk about some of the steps that the city of Lauderdale Lakes took in the late 1980s and early 1990s to sort of revive the city. We were going through economic decline at that time, and there was a lot of worry and panic in the city of what was going on and what was happening to our wonderful city. So just a little bit about our city background. The city of Lauderdale Lakes was incorporated in 1961. We were largely developed in the 1960s and the 1970s as an affordable retirement community like many communities in South Florida. So basically we had a lot of retirees from the north coming to South Florida to retire in our community. We were a new community, the latest, greatest, everything. We also had a lot of middle class residents residing in our community as well at that particular time. The community basically had all of the accoutrements, so to speak, that good suburban living comes with. We had our mall, our bowling alley, movie theaters, restaurants, supermarkets, great schools, and major retailers. Another interesting fact about the city of Lauderdale Lakes is that we actually gave birth to two major retailers that operate in this country today, and that is Office Depot. Office Depot actually had its first store within the city of Lauderdale Lakes, and also the Sports Authority. The Sports Authority was actually headquartered at one point in the city of Lauderdale Lakes as well. It was later bought out and they relocated to, I think it was Phoenix, Arizona. So things were good. Then the 1990s hit, and a number of things began to happen and a number of things began to change within the city. During the 90s, the number of retirees coming to move out. Now, why was that? Well, Lauderdale Lakes, we're located just west of Fort Lauderdale. At the time that we were developing, we were the westernmost city and the newest suburb. But development continued to take place in Broward County, moving further west towards the Everglades. New retirement communities, new middle income housing, and so new retirees began to locate further west. Some of the residents in our city went further west as well. The retirees that had come to the city in the 60s and 70s, many of them began to sort of die out, and there was no one replacing this population. And so we began to have some demographic changes and some purchasing power that began to change within our city. And this created some very different dynamics. So one of the things that the commission at that time charged the then city manager with the responsibility of was coming up with a plan to sort of revive the city and to change the declining conditions that were taking place. I had the fortune at that time of being in the city, so I've been at the city for quite some time. And we began to meet with the manager. There was also an economic development manager that we met with, and we began to kind of put together a plan, a five-step plan sort of to move the city forward. Our first step was we started looking at the Florida statutes, and we noticed that within the Florida statutes there was a community redevelopment agency vehicle that we could create. Now, many states have this in their enabling legislation. It's called different things in the various states, but I think with the exception of the state of Washington, which is a little different, it's a little more difficult there. But the important thing for us with the CRA was that we wanted to implement this tool because it will allow us to do many things, make and execute contracts and other instruments, acquire and dispose of property, which was something that was very important as some of the big box retailers were moving out and leaving vacant properties behind. It allowed us to borrow money, issue revenue bonds, and we had the power to do tax increment financing, which was very big. Again, this type vehicle exists in many of your states as well. These are so once we got the community redevelopment agency in place, we began to undertake studies of our city. And I mean, we looked at everything. We looked at the demographic and economic data, community aesthetics, quality of parks and recreational amenities, the condition of local infrastructure, the quality of the local housing, traffic conditions, and we did an inventory of the vacant land in our city. And so once we got all this together, we put together goals and objectives that we wanted to accomplish to redevelop the city. After these goals, objectives, and policies were put in place, and I just did something here. Here we go. We went on to our third step, which was to engage the community. So we began to conduct a charrette. We did a big 7-day charrette with the City of Lauderdale Lakes and their residents. You can see on the left there, these are some pictures of the charrette that we conducted. And as part of that, we asked the community to think outside the box and imagine what you wanted your community to be. And we came up with lots of ideas. As part of the study that we did in terms of looking at the city and looking at all aspects of the city, we presented that information to the community so that we could educate the community at the same time about the dynamics and the things that were taking place within our city. And so you can see there we began to dream to change the aesthetics in the community. The map over there shows some of the things that information with regard to traffic. We wanted to do traffic calming and things of that sort in the city. One of the complaints that we had was of the residents that people had to leave, go outside our city to enjoy, go out to dinner and to go out to a nice club or whatever. And so many residents said, look, we want to create our own town center because we were just suburbia, nondescript suburbia. There's nothing interesting about that. You drive up and down our main corridor and every city along the corridor pretty much looked the same way. So we wanted to create a new brand for ourselves and something unique about the city as well. We had a big water district canal running through the middle of the city, which was somewhat of a no man's land that we didn't take advantage of. And these are all the things that came out in the charrette. And from that charrette, the community identified as part of the master plan the things that they wanted to accomplish. So we identified all of those things as a step 4 in our plan, and this was our charge. We had the commission adopt this by resolution, and these were the things that we were going to do to move the city forward. However, as we began to take a look at this stuff, staff began to ask some important questions with the manager. These are the things we want to do, but how are we going to do this? And so what happens when I'm a city planner by trade. A lot of times we go out, we get the community all excited, ready to move with all this stuff, and we have this study, and it sits on the shelf and collects dust because nobody thinks about a good implementation plan for the community. So one of the things we insisted upon with some of the companies that assisted us with the charrette and putting things together was that we wanted an implementation plan for our community. So everything that was listed in there that we wanted to accomplish, we identified the steps and the things that we had to do as a community to implement those things. So we divided our implementation plan into intermediate steps or immediate steps, intermediate steps, and long-term steps. And we began to go to work in implementing our plan. These are some of the things that are just listed there that we had to do. So we could go through as we were progressing through that, and we could check things off, and we could identify what our successes were. For a time, I'm going to skip through that slide. Our successes, you can see some of the things that we redeveloped. The mall that I talked about a little earlier that had some dark spaces in it and that were boarded up. You can see that mall at the top left. It's now revived again. We came up with new architectural design details, and we were able to, from the studies we did, we knew what types of retailers to go after that we were able to bring back and attract to the city. We implemented a facade renovation program to change some of the buildings. You can see that we brought in a new library up at the top right. At the bottom left there was a property that the Community Redevelopment Agency purchased, and we were able to bring in a developer that provided some concepts for us, and those are some of the successes that we achieved. And also to the right there, you can see the trail along that waterway that we turned into a greenway and a blueway trail that our residents are able to enjoy today. So we began really changing things. We're not finished with the plan yet. The economy kind of crashed things, as people know, and we're still reworking the plan, but we're moving forward to move things ahead. So what I'd just like to say in closing, that as you as residents out there and as officials from the cities, you have to see yourselves as agents of change for your community. The economic times are coming, they're going to change, demographics are going to change, and you're going to wonder, what happened to my beautiful city? But if you get to work, you sit down and you take a look, you do the right studies, you analyze things, you're going to have to realize that you have to remake your city, and that's something that never stops. It's never static. You'll have to continuously do that. And so I say to you, let's make our cities great places. Thank you very much.